Hi everyone. Today I'm going to be trying to talk about tips and tricks for protecting your wrist. I'm going to try to break this down in 3 parts. Part 1 will be kind of like a background about like my own personal experience with this, and then part 3 will be exercises I do. And part 1 will be my background with my own personal wrist stuff. Part 2 will be exercises I do, and part 3 will be some tips. Now, I crochet, as many of you know, so this will kind of be geared around crocheting, but I also play musical instruments. I play piano and several string instruments, so if you do something like that, or if you just have wrist issues, then maybe my tips will be helpful for you. I will say that I am not a doctor. I don't have a medical background whatsoever. I'm just a regular person, and I've done lots of like experimenting and my own research to come up with these methods, and this is what's been working for me. Um, so I'll just get started on my background. I've been crocheting for almost 10 years, almost nonstop. Almost every single day I crochet. And as for music, I play off and on. I definitely do not play music as much as I should, and definitely not as much as I crochet. Because crochet is my full-time job right now. I will say that for the most part, I almost never have pain. There was a part of my life where I was getting pain, and it was when I really started my business, and it was really started to take off. I was crocheting around 6 to 8 hours every day, and it made my wrist very weak, to the point where like opening doors was an issue for me, and it messed up with my grip. And I didn't actually know I had any problems until I had to like push something away, or I would work out. So like, because I was working so much, I wasn't also working out. I was not balancing my time at all. And so when I would go to do like a regular workout, almost every time I'd injure myself, and I'd have to wear like a little wrist guard. I wish I had it here with me, because I have a couple of them. But same thing would happen with piano. Is where I'd crochet a lot, and then when I'd finally play piano or something, I'd injure myself, and I'd be like, what the heck? And obviously I realized that I had made my wrist weak from over crocheting, and not doing anything else. It's kind of funny, because the actual crocheting act never really hurts me. It's always the anything else after that. So what I started to do was obviously work out more, and I took a couple aerial classes, like circus classes, and I learned more about like how to basically like strengthen your grip. Just small exercises I could do. So those are what I'm going to show you. I'm just going to show you what I learned and what I do, and because of these exercises, and I mean, wrist pain is almost non-existent for me. Wrist pain is almost non-existent for me, but I do get shoulder pain from crocheting sometimes. So I'll probably talk about that in another video, because that actually bothers me 100 times more than my wrists do. So first, I will start by showing you guys some of the exercises I learned in my aerial classes. And it's really like only 2 things. But first is like flicking your wrists, where like you just take your hands and you just like throw your fingers out. It's like aggressive jazz hands. And this kind of like loosens tension. At least that's how I feel. It's just like the area that most of these exercises will target are going to be like this area. Like, I guess where if you have carpal tunnel, something like that. That's kind of where you feel. And I only do this for like a couple seconds. Like, it helps also like release the grip when you've been gripping the hook and the yarn and stuff too tight for too long. It helps loosen up your hands. Another one of my favorites is you take your hands, put them together palm to palm, and like push against each other, and then you take it to one side of your chest, and you push with this hand, whichever hand is not nearest to your chest, and you push it into your palm as hard as you can. And you should feel a stretch like in this area on top of your wrist. So I do this, and then the other side. It is helpful to push against both hands at the same time. So those are 2 that I learned in my aerial class that I do from time to time. So these exercises are basically how I would kind of relax my wrist after working for a super long time or consistently working like every day like for a long time. I would do that to like just release any tension. Another thing I like to do is, get onto my hands and knees and make sure my shoulders are over my wrists, and I'll just rock back and forth side to side, putting pressure into my palms and my fingertips. And then I'll just change the direction of my hands so I get all areas. And I like to also reverse my wrist like this, and gently, like one at a time, like take my knee and apply pressure to my hands, my wrist. Be careful doing this. It feels good though. These next exercises would be how I strengthen my wrist to build up basically the strength to not hurt myself, to not keep re-injuring myself. So one of my favorite ones and my go-to is plank. This probably more than anything has helped strengthen my wrist, and I like to also move while I do this, but you don't have to. If you can't do plank, you can drop to your knees. I like to keep it at an angle, so it still kind of makes it a challenge. You can do that. And if you can't do that, you can still also just do it on your knees, because even doing this and trying to put all your weight on top of your hands can help build strength. At least I think so. Another thing I like to do is tripod headstands. And this is definitely not for everyone, but I'm just going to show you what I do. You put your head on the ground, and I like to just kind of levitate. And like to put my full weight into my head and my wrist, and this helps. And when I'm ready, and that feels really good on my hands. So yeah, I also, to help strengthen my wrists, I like to do plank exercises like that. I like to do lots of headstands and handstand practice, and you can do this using the wall or whatever you feel comfortable with. Anything basically that the wrist would be supporting most of your weight is a good strengthener for your arms and hands and things like that. At least in my experience, this has been the case. Now I want to share some tips that kind of help me release as well as a crocheter. The biggest thing I do is when I've been working on a project for like at least 4 hours and it's the same hook size, I switch my hook size. So say I'm working with like, wow, I have no crochet hooks to use as an example. Okay. Say I have like a 6mm. Say I have a 6mm hook, and I've been using this hook for 4 hours. My wrist is used to the size. So then I'll switch to something smaller or bigger. It really doesn't matter. But just the switch alone will release that specific tension, and I'll kind of feel like brand new and fresh again. I also don't personally crochet more than 6 hours a day because I've been doing this for a long time, and longevity is important to me. I don't want to ever stop doing this. And I found that even though I can crochet for longer, if I'm going to do this every single day, it's best to do less at a time. And I also take breaks, small breaks almost every 2 hours in between crocheting, just to like play games or eat, something like that. So those are some simple tips I use to keep my wrists safe, and as far as I know, it's been great. It's been successful. I don't have any underlying issues. Definitely consult a medical practitioner before trying any of these things, because I'm only speaking from personal experience. They've worked for me. They might work for you. They might not. But I'm pretty positive that they're pretty good tools to use to keep your wrist happy. I don't use a lot of like topical products, but I do sometimes use like CBD balms. I have a couple right here. This one's Muscle Freeze by Mary's Medicinal. This one works pretty good. And then I have 1940 LA Roll-On. I've only used this like once. I'm like a guinea pig. But yeah, so you can use CBD balms or something like that for your wrist if you have problems with them, or if you want to help relax them. Like I said, I rarely use those, so I can't speak too much about them. I do keep wrist guards around me that I wish I had. Apparently I don't actually keep them around me because I don't know where they are, but if I do injure myself, that helps a lot. It helps to keep the wrist steady. Sometimes I'll even just take a sock and wrap it around. This is usually the wrist that hurts, the wrist that I have to put the yarn around for some reason, not my actual crochet hand, just this one. So I hope these tips are helpful. I hope that you learned something. I'll see you later. Bye.